The Battle of Yamama was fought in December 632 as part of the Ridda Wars on the plain of Akraba in the region of Al-Yamama between the forces of Muslim Caliph Abu Bakr and Musaylima, a self-proclaimed prophet. Background: after the death of Prophet Muhammad, many Arab tribes rebelled against the state of Medina. Caliph Abu Bakr organized 11 corps to deal with the rebels. Abu Bakr appointed Ikrimah as the commander of one of the corps. Ikrimah's orders were to advance and make contact with the forces of Musaylima at Yamama, but not to get involved in battle with him. Ikrimah had insufficient forces to attack the overwhelmingly more numerous foe. Khalid ibn al-Walid was chosen to command the forces opposing Musaylima after he dealt with other smaller apostates. Abu Bakr's intention in giving Ikrimah this mission was to tie Musaylima down at Yamama. With Ikrimah on the horizon, Musaylima would remain in expectation of an attack and thus not be able to leave his base. With Musaylima so committed, Khalid would be free to deal with the apostate tribes of north-central Arabia without interference from Yamama. Ikrimah advanced with his corps and established a camp somewhere in the region of Yamama. The location of his camp is not known. From this base he kept the forces of the Bani Hanifa under observation while awaiting instructions from the Caliph. And the presence of Ikrimah had the desired effect of keeping Musaylima in Yamama. The following passages have been quoted directly from the Sword of Allah. Khalid bin al-Walid, His Life and Campaigns, Nat. Publishing House, Rawalpindi ISBN 0-7101-0104-X. And are written in the form of a legend or epic with a moral at the end. When Ikrimah received reports of the defeat of Tulriha by Khalid, he began to get impatient for battle. Ikrimah was a fearless man and a forceful general, but he lacked Khalid's cool judgment and patience, qualities which distinguish the bold commander from the rash one. The next development that Ikrimah heard of was that Shurabil bin Hassana was marching to join him. Shurabil too had been given a call by the Caliph with orders to follow Ikrimah, and await further instructions. In a few days Shurabil would be with him. Then came news of how Khalid had routed the forces of Salma, the queenly leader of men. Ikrimah could wait no longer, and he set his corps in motion. This happened at the end of October 632. He was defeated by Musaylima. He wrote to Abu Bakr and gave him a complete account of his actions. Abu Bakr was both pained and angered by the rashness of Ikrimah and his disobedience of the orders given to him. Abu Bakr ordered him to march to Mara to help Arfaha and thereafter go to the Yemen to help Muhajir. Shurabil remained in the region of Yamama. To ensure that he did not fall into the error of Ikrimah, Abu Bakr wrote to him, "Stay where you are and await further instructions." The Caliph sent for Khalid and gave him the mission of destroying the forces of Musaylima at Yamama. In addition to his own large corps, Khalid would have under command the corps of Shurabil. Khalid rode to Butar where his old corps awaited him. Meanwhile, the Caliph wrote to Shurabil to work under Khalid ibn al-Walid's command. A few days before Khalid's arrival, Shurabil had given in to the same temptation as Ikrimah. He had advanced and clashed with Musaylima, but was defeated. Khalid got news that Musaylima was encamped in the plain of Akraba with an army of 40,000 warriors. The two successful actions fought by them against Ikrimah and Shurabil had increased their confidence in themselves and created an aura of invincibility around Musaylima. The second strike of the Muslims. On the orders of Khalid, the Muslim advanced. The Muslims launched a series of attacks along their entire front. The most dreadful carnage took place in a gully in which human blood ran in a rivulet down to the wadi. As a result, this gully became known as the Gully of Blood Shu'ab Dam, and it is still known by that name. But the battle hung in the balance. As the first period of combat ended, the warriors retired to rest. The next phase of battle, known as the Second Strike of the Muslims, is clouded with legend, but from the myths alone we can determine that the apostate force largely disintegrated. Last phase of the battle. Only about a quarter of Musaylima's army remained in fighting shape, and this part hastened to the walled garden while Muhakim covered its retreat with a small rear guard. Soon the Muslims arrived at the walled garden, where a little over 7,000 rebels, Musaylima among them, had taken shelter. The rebels had closed the gate. The Muslims were anxious to get into the garden and finish the job. Soon a Muslim soldier, al-Bara ibn Malik, asked his fellow men to let him climb the wall so that he could open the gate by killing the guards there. The soldier jumped into the garden and opened the gate. The Muslims entered the garden and the last phase of the Battle of Yamama had begun. The Garden of Death. The rebels stepped back as the Muslims poured into the garden. The fighting became more vicious, but Musaylima was still fighting. He had no intention of giving up. As the front moved closer to him, he joined in the combat. The last phase of the battle now entered its climax. The Muslim army pressed the rebels everywhere. Musaylima became the target of Washi ibn Harb. He threw the same javelin that he had used to kill Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib and struck Musaylima in the stomach. The next moment Abu Dujana cut off Musaylima's head. The news of the death of Musaylima brought about the rout of his forces. The garden where this last phase of the battle took place became known as the Garden of Death, as the approximately 7,000 rebels within it were slaughtered. Aftermath. This battle is considered the end of the apostate rebellion in Arabia. Impact. The battle played a major role in motivating Abu Bakr to complete the compilation of the Quran. During the life of Muhammad, many parts of the Quran were scattered among his companions, much of it as private possession. However, 400 Hafizas were killed at Yamama. Consequently, upon the insistence of his future successor Umar, Abu Bakr ordered the collection of the pieces of the Quran into one copy.